Hello, everyone, and welcome to the December of 2022 real estate market analysis for Santa Clara County. Today, what we're going to do is take a look at that 10,000-foot view for the entire county to get an idea of how the other local communities are performing versus the overall umbrella of the county. Now, for those of you who haven't checked out my other market analysis, I've already done San Jose, Morgan Hill, and Gilroy. I think this is a great way to do sort of an overview of that, but it's also a great way to detect trends that might be more reliably predicted because of the sample size of the county being so much larger. Now, something else to keep in mind that once a month on the third Saturday of each month, I do a little things called Coffee and Real Estate live stream. It's an opportunity to cover this data all sort of jammed together with Santa Clara County, San Jose, Morgan Hill, and Gilroy all crammed together, but we also cover the latest news items and happenings that are affecting our local markets. So feel free to join in on that. And it's an opportunity for you to bring your questions to the live chat, and we'll answer them right there live during the show. So make sure to check those out. You can find information about it at soldbyrobert.com. Just scroll down a little bit, and right there in the center of the page is a link to where the home of it is, which is on Facebook Live. But also keep in mind that when I do that stream, while Facebook Live is the home of it, it'll also be going out to YouTube, Twitter, LinkedIn, and I believe even Twitch. So lots of ways to consume it, and I look forward to seeing some of you there next time around. And we also just did the January version last weekend, so you can also check that out at Facebook Live for me. There'll be a link right below for you to check that out. All right, so let's go ahead and jump in and take a look at what we have going on here in Santa Clara County overall. Let's start with the total number of active listings. We can see that from the same time last year, they're up 82%. And just to be clear on what you're looking at here, this is a chart where far to the right, we're comparing the two Decembers, right? So December of 2022 and 2021 are right next to each other. And then we can also look back just over our shoulder at the calendar and see how things have been performing over the last year or so in terms of total number of homes on the market. And for those of you that are buyers, this is basically a number that tells you how many homes did you have to choose from during that month. And for sellers, that's a number to telling you how much competition you had for the attention of buyers. So we had 943 homes on the market in December of 2022. And December is typically a low point for listings for the market in general, for adding new listings and for overall inventory, simply because it's the holiday season. Nobody wants in wintertime to be showing their house. Nobody wants to be dealing with folks coming into their home when they're trying to enjoy the holidays. So typically, folks will actually take their homes off the market in December frequently. But when you see homes on the market in December, usually for me, that's a cue to my buyers to let's seriously look at those homes, because those sellers aren't taking their homes off the market, or they're listing it during that month. And that may indicate a more urgent situation where they want to get that home sold faster, or may have a heightened need to get it sold. So that may be an opportunity for some aggressive negotiation or aggressive offers. All right, next, let's go ahead and take a look at how many new listings got added to the market in December. This was down 33%. 639 homes got listed in the month of December in 2021. That number dropped to 428. From the trend we can see, again, this is all mostly seasonally dictated. Last year we saw a big jump in listings from December to January. I would expect us to see the same thing happening this year in 2023. And then we typically peak March, May, right in that time range. And that's also very typical as folks want to get into the marketplace in time to hit that peak when the largest number of buyers are out there and when homes tend to get their highest price. So those market influences are absolutely there, and this is a good example of the seasonal influences of real estate, with a steady decline as we head into the winter months. Total number of homes sold. This is down by a huge chunk, down 45% from the same time last year. Now, last year we saw 1,217 homes sell in December. This year, in December of 2022, that number dropped to 668. And again, this is one of the homes sold number is one of those ones where you almost need to shift everything to the left a little bit, because this is not necessarily a reflection of when the home actually sold. So it officially closed in the month that's listed here, but remember, escrows take 30 to 45 days to close. So the numbers we see here are a reflection of offers that were accepted in the previous month or even the month before that then closed a month later. So as we see here, January of 2022, very low number of homes sold. More, not so much because people aren't shopping as much in January, because notice between January and February we see an uptick. But in December of 2021, we saw lower offers being submitted, which resulted in lower number of home sales in January of 2022. I hope that makes sense. It's one of those things that tends to get delayed because the distance between an offer being made that got accepted by a seller or being submitted by a buyer and accepted by a seller gets delayed by that escrow process of 30 to 45 days. So just keep that in mind as we look at this. We can see the trend is pretty clear to see here with a kind of an odd dip in July of 2022 that I wouldn't have expected, simply because that would reflect deals that happened in June or got accepted in June. And typically during that time period, we see a little bit more activity. But we then see it ramp right back up to September. And then as a normal part of the seasonal process, we see it start to dip back down again in October as we head into winter. In terms of estimating what we're going to see in 2023, I would guess we're going to see the same thing. In January, we will see a dip from where we are now as a result of offers made in December of 2022 that are closing in January of 2023. But here's an interesting thing that might play into this. We did get a little bit of a interest rate drop at the end of December, so that may play into keeping that number a little higher than normal, but really that didn't hit until really January. So February will likely be a month when we see maybe a bit of a boost in the number of homes sold because of buyers returning to the market because of lower interest rates. Average original list price, and this is one that I tend to do differently than other folks, and I feel like I need to point that out because I don't want anyone to get confused. This is the price that the home was listed for originally, meaning the day that that seller signed that listing agreement and the day it was entered in the MLS. This number is the number the real estate agent entered when it was put into the MLS that very first day. And the reason I select this number is I want to get a little bit of insight into the psychology of sellers at the time they listed their home. What were their expectations? How much were they expecting to get for the home? And in this case, we can see that when compared to the same time last year, sellers were expecting to get 11% more from their home than last year. The number last year was $1,561,000 on average was the original list price. In December of 2022, that number jumped to $1,732,000 for the county overall. In terms of trends, we can see this is going down a little bit, and the direction it's going makes sense. As we can see last year, there was a little bit of a dip between November and December of last year, and then a little bit of a jump in January. But we've seen a pretty steady drop here from August and September all the way down. And as the market realizes where we are in terms of what the market will support right now, wouldn't surprise me if this continues to go down. What the big question mark right now today as we look at the market going forward is what will reduced interest rates do? As I looked at the numbers yesterday, folks were able to get about a 5-point something interest rate, which is obviously 2 points down from the peak. So it's going to be interesting to see how this affects the buying habits of folks out there searching for a home. Anecdotally, I haven't seen an increase in the number of folks out there looking to buy. I do have several active searchers who are looking for a home, but I haven't seen an uptick since the reduced interest rates. So not sure how much of a real on-the-ground effect that might be having. Average sales price. And this is one where you can really see what the disconnect is between the average original list price or what sellers expected versus what the market delivered. So remember, our average original list price in Santa Clara County was up 11%. However, the actual average sales price was down 13%. So a huge delta between expectations and how the market's actually performing in terms of average sales price in the county. In December of 2021, the number was $1,739,000 was the average sales price. In December of 2022, that number was $1,507,000. So clearly a dip, and the trend here again is not difficult to spot. March, April, May, we see things sort of peaking there. And remember, in 2022, interest rates started to go crazy in about March and April. And remember, sales prices for these are also a little bit delayed, right? Because these would represent offers that were made the month before. So we started to see a decline as it related to offers, actually more in April than May. And then from there, moving forward, it declined to the point where it flattened between August and October and then started another decline as we headed into December. Compare this to last year, where between November and December, there was actually an uptick in the average sales price, which is interesting. What would I expect moving forward? I would expect the average sales price to drop again in January, despite the change in interest rates so far. We'll see if that pans out, but that would be my guess for those numbers. Percent of list price. This tells us how much above or below the asking price a offer was that was accepted. And this reflects the number as it was at the time the offer was made. So while the last slide was an opportunity to look into the mindset of sellers as it related to original list price, this is an opportunity to look into the mind of buyers. When they were faced with a certain price, what offers were they coming in with? How aggressively were they trying to push a lower or higher number? So this is a slice of time right when that offer was made in terms of how the list price at the time the offer was made related to the offer. So last year, the number was at 108.8%, which basically meant that you were getting 8.8% over your asking price on average when you sold your home. This year, it's 98.8, which is a 10 percentage point drop. So clearly the tables have turned. We are no longer seeing tons of multiple offers, or in those scenarios where we are seeing multiple offers, odds are they're still not coming in at over asking price. Now, granted, this is county numbers. There are some submarkets within the county and even within Morgan Hill, San Jose, and Gilroy where we are continuing to see a lot of attention. There are always certain neighborhoods that are just super desirable and people love them. So those tend to be a little bit more robust in down markets. But on average, this is what we're tending to see. And again, the trend, not difficult to spot. We peaked back in March of 2022 at 115.3%, which meant 15.3% over asking price was the average for the month of March, which is just insane. So then that number started to drop. And again, totally in line with what we would expect as it relates to the drop in buyer interest because of the cost of borrowing that money. We see a steady decline going all the way down to where we are now at 98.8. Wouldn't surprise me if this number goes down a little bit more as we move forward into January, because again, I don't think the current interest rate situation is going to offset the current trends enough to make a dent in this particular number. All right, days on market. Now, this is suddenly a real number. For those of you who've been following me for a while and know how I do these, we were really reporting this number, but ignoring it because for an awful long time, it didn't mean anything because real estate agents were simply saying in their listings, we won't look at any offers until such and such a date at such and such a time. So it was artificially defined when an offer would be accepted. And it was typically anywhere from 7 to 18 days after the day the home was listed. And in that case, it was a strategy thing. Did you want 1 or 2 weekends or 3 weekends between the day it was listed and the date you looked at offers so that all potential buyers could get a chance to take a look at it? From our low of April 22, where it was 10 days to get a home sold, we're now up to 31 days. And again, this is overall in the county what I consider to be a very big psychological milestone for sellers, where when you hit 30 days and your home hasn't sold, I think that is a point at which if sellers have been resisting considering adjusting their sales price, a 30-day milestone tends to kick that one into consideration, where a price reduction might just start to make some sense to them. And frankly, as I've said in every other video I've done for this month's data, the conversation should be happening between sellers and agents long before you hit this 30-day mark. Frankly, the conversation should be happening weekly or at least every other week, assessing where you are and assessing the level of attention you're getting. And if you go through a certain number of showings without any offers, I mean, these are all things you should be able to figure out quickly. And the reason why I'm harping on this one in every video I've been doing this month is because for every day you wait as a seller, it is costing you money. If you decided on a price today that was the exact right price and got it sold today, you're going to sell it for more than what you will be able to sell it for a month from now. So every single month you're waiting is costing you money, and you need to realize that and take action that's going to get your home sold as quickly as possible, because that's going to be the biggest payoff for you possible. All right, so last year we had 18 days in December of 2021. This year, December 2022, it was 31 days. That's a 72% increase. And to sort of correlate with that, and I'm going to get a little bit more into a deeper dive in terms of price reductions. Now, 34.4% of homes in December had a price reduction. That's up, or excuse me, down from 40.6 in November. And this just reflects the number of properties that have realized I need to reduce my price in order to get sold. And I've got some deeper data to share with you relating to that. So just bear with me for a second. Now, the average price reduction was $156,886. So that was the average. The median was $100,000, and the median meant that half of those price reductions were above $100,000 and half of those price reductions were below $100,000. And the lowest price reduction was $112. I'm trying to remember what community that was. I'm pretty sure that was San Jose. I did the San Jose market analysis and released that yesterday or the day before. Not real sure what the strategy thought was on that $112 price reduction, particularly when this is a home that's above 1.5 million. So I don't see why that happened. I can't help wondering if they actually intended to put in a bigger number than that and accidentally only entered 112. But in any event, the highest price reduction was $1.8 million. And the total count of homes that had price reductions was 177. And if we get into a little bit of detail here, there's lots of success stories to consider here. Of all of the homes that had price reductions, 84 of them have now either sold or gone into contract as pending as of the date I ran these numbers, which was for the Coffee and Real Estate live chat we did last Saturday. So these are literally 1 week old. We're 7 days away from Friday of last week. So that's good news. On the success side, the next highest price reduction, which was $1.4 million, sold, and it was on the market 90 days. So excellent strategy there to get that price down. This is another one that was very much up there. And what's interesting is the sales price was still below by $300,000 what that list price was after the price reduction. So they ended up taking a grand total of 1.7 million off what that original list price was. And I know we're talking very big numbers here. These are very stratospherically priced homes for the marketplace. And again, the luxury market is different, and this is where things tend to get hit the hardest in a market like this. Those homes just aren't selling at that level. But it just goes to show that evaluating your scenario, getting your price changes adjusted correctly for your market can make a huge difference. And this is a win for this seller. I don't want anyone thinking, wow, they really took a loss. No, they didn't. If they needed to sell that home because they did it the way they did, and because they didn't wait another 30 days, they got the maximum amount they could have gotten given the current market scenarios. Okay, and to bring it more down to earth for the rest of us who might be buying a home at average or below average price, we can see that there are a bunch of different successes here. Here's a home that was originally listed for $969 that was dropped to $149, dropped to $120,000 that still hasn't sold according to this. Here's one that was dropped from just over $1 million to just under $900,000. Super smart price drop there simply because of price banding, where you'll see different activities at different price bands. That one managed to finally sell. And when it did, what it actually ended up selling for was more than what the price reduction was. So in other words, the price reduction brought it down to $899,000, but it sold for $925,000. So not only did they manage to get that interest rekindled by lowering their price, but then they ended up getting more than what that new list price was, obviously, most likely through multiple offers. And they accomplished this all within 28 days. So that is a success story. That's a home in Gilroy. And the bottom line is that's what you need to do. And you need to be having these conversations like these folks did long before the 30-day mark so that you can make these changes that will make the seller more money. I know sometimes it's a tough one, but these are critical things that I think folks need to do. In terms of other properties that fall into the more reasonable range, we've got here's one for $849,000 that was dropped to $765,000. That one sold, and that one had been on the market for 36 days. But I'm happy to see that many of these ones that did sell are showing signs that they took action earlier, after 17 days, after 11 days. That's all good. You should be doing those kinds of reviews as early in the process as possible when we are chasing a market that's in decline, right? That old adage of, well, you can always reduce the price later is super bad in a market like this because it ends up costing the seller tons of money. Now, in terms of also analyzing a little correlation between price reductions and days on market, for all the homes that had price reductions in December, the average days on market was 76 days. The median was 69 days, meaning that half of them were above 69 days and half of them were below 69 days. The max number was 248. So there are homes on here that have been on the market for 248 days, but there were also a home that had a price reduction just after 8 days, which is excellent. I think that shows a lot of dedication to finding out what the real number is. And let me just see what the status is on that particular property, because I think that one actually went into escrow. And yes, it did. So they had a price reduction of $100,000. It ended up selling for another $25,000 below that. So basically a $125,000 drop. But that was the right move. And pretty much all of these properties, at least if you started making these decisions earlier on, all the ones that had been on the market for less than 20 days that made a price reduction are now in escrow or have sold. So that's great news. And I think that shows that there are some folks out there that are willing to have those tough discussions, and sellers who are willing to hear the logic of what's going on with current numbers. Okay. So I think that just about covers it for the Santa Clara County overview of December of 2022. If anybody has any questions, ideas, suggestions, I'd love to hear them. Head on over to soldbyrobert.com. From there, you can reach out to me directly. Or you can take advantage of some of the tools I offer my buyers and sellers, whether you want to start your home search or you would like to get an instant online value of your home or a more accurate comparable market analysis. You can get all that kicked off at the website, so feel free to do that. Now, the goal, as always, is to leave you with more knowledge on the table than I've taken up in your time, and I hope that we have accomplished that today. Thanks again for listening. I will talk to you all next time.